I mean, Michigan State came in here and earned the victory on Saturday, and we can't let that affect our preparation for a really good Purdue team that's got a game that's so important to us. So I think Coach did a great job yesterday laying that out to the guys to say, hey, listen, we came in, we watched the film. I don't think anybody enjoyed watching the film. I know they didn't. None of us enjoyed watching it. I mean, we got in there and got after them. We didn't change who we are. I mean, we're going to coach and teach the same way we would if we just won the game 6 in a row, But you bury the game, and then we literally had a break, and then we came back and said, all right, now we're turning the page to Purdue, and our guys were very responsive to that.
Was there anything you saw in particular on the offensive line? It just seems like that was kind of an outlier from what we've seen out of them in the previous 6 games.
Yeah, I would agree with that to some extent. I thought that their effort and their strain, I don't think that's ever been compromised. I mean, they play hard. That's our standard, at all positions. And but for whatever reason, some of it was we moved a little bit more, with some motions and some eye candy. We moved a little bit more in some of our run schemes, and it caused us some more problems than I anticipated it causing us. But we need to play better across all positions, but in particular, it wasn't one of their better days. And they have been a group that has been really consistent for us and have really led us. And there's no doubt in my mind we'll bounce back from that. And listen, I'm not saying that this reason we came up short was on these guys. It was all of us. They all had our moments where we didn't perform very well. Obviously, when you score 15 points in a game, it's not good enough to win hardly any games. And so we have to all play better. But our line, we'll bounce back, I think, this week.
Is it fair to suggest that if you guys don't play well up front, you can't play call your way out of that in the same way that if the offensive line plays great, every play caller is great?
Well, I mean, I think that's probably, hyperbole on both ends, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that wholeheartly, but there's some truth to that. Obviously, the better they play, the more we control the line of scrimmage, the more you are able to stay within your plan, and when you're struggling a little bit, it makes it more difficult. But it's no different than anybody else doing their job. Same for the quarterback or for the receivers. I mean, you have to do your job, and we've had a lot of moments where guys have done that. But Saturday at inopportune times, I'm not talking about any one position group. We just collectively didn't do our job well enough. Starting with me, moving on down.
What stands out to you about the Purdue defense?
Tough, physical. I mean, they look like a lot of the other Big Ten defenses. They know what they're doing. They're very sound in their scheme. Support the run really well. They've statistically been really, really good against the run this year. I think they're top 25 nationally against run and rushing defense. So they tackle well, and they get down in there in the box and challenge you to throw it. And I think they do a good job on defense.
Common opponents at this time.
Yeah.
Do you look at those games and see what teams had success and how they did it?
Certainly, yeah. There's a lot of film. I mean, we're 9 games into it, and there's a lot of film and validation of who they are and what they are. It goes both ways, too. We've got a lot of film out there, too, of ourselves. So it's all available, and this time of year, everybody's pretty settled in to kind of who they are and what they're trying to be, and so there's not a lot of punches pulled at this particular time of the year. It's about executing who you are, and can you be who you are better than they are who they are. That's a lot of R's and A's, but you guys get what I'm saying.
Obviously, Chase gets so much attention, gets other people some opportunities. The tight ends seem to be benefactors of that here recently. Is that something that's opening up a little bit more, or has that been more focus?
Yeah, it has been. I mean, against Nebraska, it kind of popped up. I use this word a lot, organically through the course of the play call. Last week was a little bit more intentional to some degree, kind of pending the forecast of the weather. It felt like that was something that, we were going to be probably limited and be able to push the ball down the field, and it kind of held true to some degree. I mean, that was the most intense win I've been a part of in a football game. I mean, it was pretty violent, and so we thought that maybe using the run action and play action would help be able to put the ball in that little bit intermediate zone for our tight ends in particular, and that held to be true. They did a nice job in the passing game on Saturday.
How do you balance that? Chase Brown is so good at what he does. He draws a lot of attention, but you don't want to go away from it.
Yeah.
Using him as a decoy and then using it. How do you balance that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's something that I'm, as a play caller and organizer of the offense, constantly not wrestling with, but trying to, navigate and piece together how best that would fit us and what we need to do. And because you're right, I mean, you got a guy here that's a really elite running back, and you want him to touch the ball. You want him to impact the game, but you also don't want to do it so much and so often that you're beating your head up against the wall. So, there's been times we've had nice balance in that. There's probably been times where we've stuck to that to some degree too much. But hopefully down the stretch we can really find that formula and we've found that formula a lot of times during the course of the year of run and play action and using our quick passing game. And so hopefully we get back on track this week with using those things.
Isaiah has kind of had those long catch and runs last week. So have you guys been able to maybe kind of find him more space on those short routes?
It's just happened through the course of the play call. I mean, it's been our base, some of our base play calls on early downs, and he's done. It was almost like a carbon copy of the week before against Nebraska when he caught that ball, and there's Chase down the field and blocking multiple guys, and Isaiah running after catch. So, I think Isaiah's really the last couple of weeks has played really well for us, and has proven over and over again that he's a real threat when he has the ball in his hands. We got to continue to find ways for him to touch the football, but really all the things that are showing up for us have happened pretty naturally for us in the flow of the offense.
We'll ask Brett about Josh's availability, but just the last 2 weeks, what has it been like trying to find the right amount of usage for him, getting him back into the rhythm?
Yeah, I think obviously there was a little bit more Saturday, and then he got horse collared, and I think that affected him just a little bit physically, honestly, and so it probably would have been supplemented more down the stretch of the game if maybe if that hadn't happened. And so I think the biggest thing for us is I saw a big jump from him last week and for his readiness. The week before Nebraska, he was probably on the verge of being ready. He was close. And then last week he was really close to being, I think, back to 100%. And I think once he gets established there, we're never going to put him in the game if he's not prepared and physically able to protect himself. But I think mentally last week was a really good week for him to get back to gain that confidence. And I think that moving forward here, I think he's going to have a full slate of health and be able to really impact the game more and more as he goes on each week.
What does that readiness look like? How can you tell that he's starting to get to that point?
Yeah, I think you just watch him in practice and run in pregame, and there's no favoring and his eyes and his countenance and all those types of things that go along with the guy being fully engaged, be ready to go. I think he's made some real strides in that.
What have you learned from Coach B about building a program?
Well, yeah, that's. I think Coach has got an incredible gift for that. I don't think. I know he does. And so I saw that, and I was able to experience that as working for him for 5 years at Arkansas. I saw the way he went about, the culture, and he doesn't use that word, but that's a lot of people that uses that word. A lot of people use that word in sports and business, in particular football and basketball. You talk about the culture that you build, and he has a unique way of building it without, banging the drum, saying this is our culture, like these are our expectations, this is how we operate on a daily basis, and he has a unique ability to get coaches and players to conform to that through the course of without ruling with an iron fist. And I think that's what makes him really unique in this business. He's got a lot of experience, a lot of success, a lot of wisdom, and he just continually, through consistency, is what I would say, is he's the same guy every day. So I've learned a lot of those things about how to manage that from him, and it's something I'm continually learning from on a daily basis. Even like when how you handle success, winning 6 games in a row, and then how you handle failure. Because that's part of this business and that's part of this job, and I think he does a great job of that.
Brett said something after the game about personnel groupings in the red zone and get closer inside the 10. My question is, as a play caller, how much are you thinking about, God, I don't want to substitute here because I don't want to give them a chance to?
I don't get too caught up in that. I think there's times, when you get them in certain groupings, like you want to continue to play. It's just like when we went to 13 personnel the other day and on the goal line. As soon as we did that, we knew they were going to sub and get heavy, and we had a very specific scheme for a very specific defense that unveiled just like we thought it would. We just didn't, we weren't able to execute the play the way that we were hoping to be able to do. But so there's a lot of strategy that's involved in that to say, okay, we're going to stay in what we're currently in to keep them from subbing, or are we going to go to a grouping that's going to invite? As long as you're in tune with what you're going to get I don't think it really has a strong impact one way or the other, as long as you're tuned into what you're going to get if they sub on when you sub.
So you're going to come back and try and go, catch up.
Yeah.
What did you see from your team getting your unit getting a chance to tie the game away? Like, what did you learn about them in that situation?
Well, I thought they showed some grit, all the way down to the fourth down. I mean, that's a unique situation to be, backed up that far and to have the elements fighting against you to some degree, and it got to fourth down and it wasn't going our way, and Tommy threw a strike and Brian made a great catch, and all of a sudden we were going, and unfortunately we did not execute the last play of the game the way it needed to be executed, and ended up costing us opportunity to get the ball in the end zone and still have a chance. So we got to get better from that. I mean, we got to grow from that. We can't let that happen again. I was pleased with the way we popped it down the field and we were fighting and scratching and clawing, but we got to finish that with the ball in the end zone to give our guys a chance to catch it.
What adjustments can you make for better fourth down success on Saturday?
I'm sorry, one more time.
What adjustments can you make for better fourth down success on Saturday?
Well, the adjustments primarily need to be through, I think, a combination of putting our guys in a better situation, and then we have to be able to execute the details of those calls in those critical moments, which we've shown we've had a propensity to do so at this, to this part of the season. I mean, obviously reflected back on Minnesota just a few weeks earlier, we were really good on fourth down. And so I think our guys have confidence in that. We just didn't get it done. And we had some longer ones the other day too that kind of added into the 1 for 6. But the short ones, obviously it's like the percentage scale. When you're dealing with 4th and 1 and 4th and 2, those are favorable for the offense to achieve, and we got to get those. When it gets 4th and 7 and 4th and 8, your chances of getting them get lower. We had to do every one of those that we did the other day. I mean, there was just no question that every one of those fourth downs that we went for, I think were pretty just slam dunks as far as you have to. The situation called for it. We weren't able to kick a field goal into that strong of a wind from the 25-yard line. So your percentages obviously go against you the longer it gets. But we've got to be better in those ones that are manageable for us through both play call and through execution.
It seems like you played well.
Got a minute left.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Arguably the biggest game, obviously, in the last decade, with the implications and everything coming up against Purdue. Has that been talked about amongst the team, and has that message been given across?
Yeah, as we turned the page last night, I think everybody's in tune with what's at stake still for us, and what happened on last Saturday does not really impact us moving forward to a large degree. I mean, I'm not trying to sweep what happened under the rug by any stretch of the imagination, but I think everybody understands, there's a rivalry involved. There's implications to the conference race involved, and also the old. I mean, you get 12 of them guaranteed, right? And if you can't get up for each of those 12, then something's wrong with you. I'm confident our guys will bounce back and put their best foot forward this week to get ready to play a good Purdue team.
That last drive, it looked like Casey was close to being out of bounds.
Yeah.
What are the mechanics of communicating that with the guys on the field to let?
Well, we're going. Really, to be honest with you, what held us up, it was we had just a little hiccup in what the protection was, and just if it was one way or the other. And so there was just a small argument there, not argument, but just a little pause that cost us a few seconds. The guy, Casey, was really close to the sideline. I don't know if there was a small amount of confusion there that when he caught the ball on the sideline and the clock stopped for a first down, I don't know if our guys thought that maybe it paused for a second because it was like really bang, bang play right on the sideline. But we should have been in our normal operating mode there of assuming we're going. And we just took a few too many ticks there that, it was ended up being a costly deal to lose those 5 to 6 seconds there. It could have afforded us one more play. Something, again, that we got to learn from and move on from in a hurry.
Thanks, guys. Move on to football.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah. I got that on camera. For the record. Know your roles.
What's up? How's everybody doing? Good.
Coach, their quarterback's having a pretty good year, throws for a lot of yards. What's some of the keys to slowing down their passing game?
Yeah, like you said, I feel like he's been there a long time. He's got a great understanding of what the Brown brothers are trying to do schematically. He gets the ball out on time. I think that's the biggest thing is trying to disrupt their timing He doesn't take he's got a bunch of dropbacks and not a whole lot of sacks, and so that lets you know he has a great understanding of where to put the ball depending on what coverage you're playing. He puts the ball in positions that allow his guys to make plays. And this year, more so than any that I've seen from Brom, is they're a lot more balanced, and so they're getting a lot of help from the running game, and that has allowed them to run the ball in favorable numbers in the box, and when people load it up, they can spread it out and get the ball out on the perimeter, and they got a good scheme.
What stood out to you on the tape review of MSU?
Shoot, a lot of things. We obviously the positives, right? I thought you couldn't have wrote a better script to start the game, right? One play, one interception, and then that second series, 3 and out. But then after that, it was just a situation where we weren't as clean as we have been in the past. We weren't able to play as complementary football as we have been able to in the last few games. And it was at every level. It was one play it was somebody up front, one play was somebody at the second level, one play was somebody in the back end. And so for us, like, we have to play clean, we have to play consistent with just doing our job and playing with fundamentals and technique. I did think the guys, they played hard. I didn't think that preparation was an issue. I didn't think that effort was an issue. I just think that we at times we're trying to make plays instead of playing within the confines of the scheme and what our responsibilities were. And so it's a lesson to learn from. You take solace in the fact that you lose a game like that and you're still 7-2 and ranked and still have everything in front of you in terms of your goals and aspirations as a team. So you learn from it, move on, and on to the next one.
Right, it seems like coordinators are attacking with the screen game, tight end, and running backs. What do you guys need to do to clean that up a little bit?
Yeah, just communication eyes. Like whoever. Like, for instance, last week it was, they were getting to trips tight. The tight end was cracking the cylinder back leaking out, and so we saw it 3 times. One of the times we saw it, in terms of the crack and replace, and it was a no gain. The other 2 were eyes. We're too focused on the tight end. So that's something that we can get better at. It's and something that we'll definitely have to work on moving forward.
What does it look like if you guys are shorthanded at that other cornerback spot this week? What's that look like, and how can you kind of get those guys ready for a passing attack like Purdue?
Yeah, I mean, I was proud of the way that those guys came in and executed. Terrell, when he got in there, he made a couple plays, and obviously, like, he goes down and T-Strain goes in there, and he gives up the one early, but then he comes back and he plays pretty good football. Xavier Scott got a chance to get in there on a third down and was really tight in coverage. And so it's just next man up mentality and everybody focusing in on their job, and I think that's what the message is going to be this week to our defense is everybody just doing that, just do your job. And when we have done that, we have been really successful and played at a really high level.
This isn't the first time you've seen a Brom offense go all the way up to your time at Missouri. Is this a little different in the sense that they might be more balanced than you've seen them?
Yeah, I think definitely.
Jeff hasn't really cared about being balanced before.
Right. You do see that they're making a concerted effort to be balanced. Just with the run-pass ratios I've done a heavy in-depth study on their early down offense, and out of every personnel group, you can see that they're trying to be balanced, and I think that shows a lot of trust in what they're doing in the run game. Number 45 is a physical downhill runner. They're doing enough up front to put you in compromise in terms of what your reads and your keys are when reading the line, and they run their run plays in favorable matchups, and they don't just run a dead play. So this is definitely the most balance I've seen out of them offensively.
I assume you'd like to get pressure without having to blitz a lot. Was that the case against Michigan State, and when you do have to send one or two extra guys, how does that impact your pass coverage?
We're pretty aggressive just in nature. There are hardly times where we're just sending four, and so we didn't change schematically what we were trying to do or trying to accomplish on Saturday. We just didn't execute as high of level as consistently as we have been. Like obviously, at the end of the game, you look at what you gave up, what you did well, and there's a lot of positives on there. It's just for us to win games that way, we have to be on our P's and Q's at a high level all the time, right? And I told our guys if we played the way we did Saturday against Iowa, like Iowa they'd have beat us, and that's okay. Like we can win games like that. We didn't answer the bell when we needed to, and we didn't get stops when we needed to get stops, and as a result, we lost the game.
I'm sure NFL guys ask you about some of your guys, but when it comes to Johnny Newton, what do you tell them about what makes him so consistently disruptive?
Yeah, I mean he's really strong, really explosive. His transition from defending the run to getting vertical and getting into a pass rush on early downs is special. And he's one of the guys that has played the most consistent throughout the course of the season. Like he is a technician. He is consistent. He's focused, and he's violent. And for 300+ pounds, he can really run.
When you have a game like Saturday, it doesn't go the way you want it to. How do you prevent from that carrying over to the next week and the week after? How do you stop the bleeding at that point?
Yeah, I think you just look internally and focus on not really the opponent, but how do you, as an individual, as a position group, as a unit, how do you improve? And I think as long as your focus is on the improvement, then you can consistently get into your routine. You consistently have good practice habits. You're consistent in the way you play, the way you approach the game. And if you're improving, then you can live with the results. It's when you do things that are uncharacteristic or without outside the framework of what you've been practicing and how you've been performing. That's when you are disappointed. And so, as long as we are focusing on internally on improving, then you can live with the results.
What's the value of being a defense coordinator when you have a guy like Spoon? You can put on Palmer. I know Quan does too, but or Keon Coleman doesn't make a big impact, like especially going to this week against Charlie Jones. Like, what's the value of having?
I mean, it's huge. Like there aren't too many Spoons out there, which is why I'd be if I were a betting man, I'd say that he was going to get drafted pretty high. He is unique in the fact that the more emotional he makes the game, the better his technique is, the more detailed he is, and that is hard to do. It's not a lot of people can do that. And so when he is like that with his opponents, it makes it hard on them. He is as locked in a guy as I've ever been around. He's as passionate a guy as I've ever been around. And that's coupled with him being the type of talented individual that he is. Like he can run, he's physical, can change directions. Like you can't create a corner better than what you got in Devin Witherspoon.
What have you learned as far as building a program from Coach B over the past couple of years?
I think the biggest takeaway I've gotten from Coach B is, you as in this profession, like you steal ideas from other people, right? Like you can steal a program, you can steal a calendar, you can steal a schedule, but what you can't do is you can't try to be somebody that you're not. And what I think what Coach B has done here is he's been his genuine, authentic self. And when you do that, that allows you to operate consistently every day. And when you are consistent and when the people that you are leading know what to get from you and know what to expect from you on a day-to-day basis, that builds trust and it builds chemistry within the program. And so I think him being comfortable with who he is, and him being himself, while still, getting ideas from other places, other stops he's had along the way, to set the program, that has allowed genuine and organic relationships This is a relationship-driven business, and so I think the tighter relationships you have, the harder people are going to work for you. It's like we show up every day, and Coach B's got an uncanny way of, putting stress on, not stress, but putting pressure on you to perform at a high level, without being an a-hole, you know what I'm saying, without having to demean you or yell at you or whatever. You don't want to disappoint him, and you don't want to disappoint him because you trust him, because you appreciate the way he goes about his day-to-days, and that's because he shows up every day being Bret Bielema, and that is what I think is the most important aspect of running a program and being a leader. Like the places I've been that have had success, at the top they're even kill. They're the same every day. And the places I've been where it hasn't worked, it's because it's up and down, and guys are trying to be trying to be people that they have worked for or what they've seen succeed instead of being their authentic selves on a day-to-day basis.
Is that what drew you here, or is that something that's manifested and you've learned since being here?
I think that's manifest. I thought that was going to be the case after my initial conversations with Coach B, and it's what I had heard from other people. And obviously, I did my homework about who he was and how he went about his business, but it definitely has manifested and proven true every day. Really, I'm a firm believer in every interaction you have with somebody, you are either building or taking away trust, right? And so when you are having those interactions and those conversations with an individual that is the same all the time, like, you can trust that. And it's because it's consistent. And so I think that's why there's a lot of trust in that building.
What have you seen from Charlie Jones in a year since you put him west to where he's become one of the best in the Big Ten, especially in Jets offense, right?
Right. I mean, they're using him, right? Like last year, you noticed him in the return game because that was really the only time he had the ball in his hands. And so now, like, he is definitely benefiting from that system. You see that he is a polished receiver. He can run routes. He makes contested catches. And then, if you give him space with the ball in his hand, like, he can really run. And so, I'm sure you'll see number 31 on Charlie on Saturday.
Ryan, maybe probably saw a really nice day yesterday for Kirby Joseph.
Yeah.
Going back to last year, going back to last year, is there kind of a time when it came to mind, like, okay, I think this guy is going to succeed at the next level?
Yeah. It was there were different moments, right? The Virginia game where his first interception, I was like, wow, like I don't know if I've ever coached somebody that can make that play. And so then obviously, you guys know the history of it. We changed what we're doing defensively. We put him in the post, for the majority of the snaps. And then just every week he would continue to get better, not only in the pass game, but he was really aggressive coming up and defending the run. And then, again, he's another guy that was consistent in practice, consistent in games. And then I think it was after the Iowa game, we went down there, we lost, but he had a really good performance, both in the run and coming up with turnovers in the passing game. And so on the bus ride back, that was the first time where I was like, we're watching the tape, and I'm like, man, he might be gone. Like, this kid, he come back, get his degree, you know what I mean? And so just throughout the course of the year, he kept making plays that you see guys make on Sundays.
Last question. Unless there is no more.
All right, good. Thanks. Appreciate you guys.
All right, well, excited to get into another game week. I think anytime you end the Saturday the way we did, a chance to jump into your prep is always a good thing. Yesterday was a day to relive a little bit of Michigan State for the first really half of our team meeting, and then we transitioned into our preparation versus Purdue. So from an injury standpoint, really no updates from where we kind of left the game on Saturday. Expect all those guys that ended the game to be back with us. Obviously some guys in concussion protocol. We'll see where they kind of end up. A lot of things to play for this week. Obviously, a Big Ten West opponent, a team with obviously all the things that I know you guys are well aware of within the Big Ten race to get to Indy and all that is that about that. But kind of what we've done all year is try to focus on the moment. We've had success doing that 7 times and failure doing it twice. So hopefully we'll be a little bit more in line with those 7 opportunities that we came away with the victory. I think it's a group of guys that learn from their mistakes, take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of them, and hopefully move forward in a positive light. So a lot of individual awards, certain things within All-American nominations, postseason awards, all that stuff just continues to roll through our office. A really good indication for our guys on what they've done, rewards for that. But I think from not just a coaching staff, but from our players, the less emphasis on that and the more emphasis on Purdue, the better off everybody is. So with that, open up for questions.
One thing about the Big Ten, you face various different types of offenses. What's unique about the air raid attack from Purdue, and have you played against Jeff Brum that before? I know you have, but
yeah.
What are some things that stand out to you about it?
Well, obviously just their weapons to be able to use the whole field. Jeff is a very, and his brother both, obviously very talented offensive minds, guys that, this year they've kind of had a variety of different ways of winning games. It's kind of transitioned all the way through the season to where we are heading into this last game. Obviously, a little bit about the elements, but a lot about who they play. It was really interesting to watch the Iowa game unfold on video. Yes, I didn't see it during the course of the day, obviously, so watched it on Sunday. But and then when you play a Big Ten West opponent, when you have last year's film to go through, right? There's a lot of carryover, divisional play, things like that affect your game plan overall.
It's been a couple months since your team had lost. What response did you see yesterday coming off of a loss?
A little bit of a continuation from Saturday. I mean, it really hurt them on Saturday to walk off the field the way they did. I knew that yesterday coming in was the first half. Like I said, so we always, whether we win or lose, we set up our Sundays the exact same way. You want to take advantage of the learning opportunities that came from Saturday and then move and transition into our opponent for the week, because Mondays are always a day off in our program. You kind of don't want that to linger into Tuesday. You don't want to have the first thing that they hear about their next opponent being Tuesday morning. We would like to transition on Sunday night. So more of the same. I think, certain guys handle things differently. I did make a point in reference to one of the things I've never really done in my coaching career is try to monitor or pass judgment on how someone handles a loss. You have guys that, don't say anything. There's guys that get very emotional. There's some guys that throw their helmet. There's guys that, get frustrated and become, aggressive, or they want to, fight, mentality. Everybody's just a little bit different. Everybody handles, in a sense, a grieving process differently, right? But I did tell our guys the thing that I felt, and the thing I felt coming out of that locker room and then on Sunday was, when you invest a lot and you believe in what you can do and you expect it to happen, when that doesn't happen, there's a tremendous amount of disappointment, probably tenfold of what you've been able to have in the past if maybe they didn't really all believe that it could happen. It's sometimes easier to expect or to take things that you didn't think were going to happen. So when you expect the exact opposite, when you expect to win a game, have everything in line with what you thought it could become, when it doesn't happen, it's twice as painful.
What do you do to try to mitigate that, make it go away, push it? Is there anything?
Sometimes time, everybody's a little bit different. I literally told the group yesterday, hey, when I get done, I am not I do my best to put on an answer and reply session for you guys, right? I don't really say much, do much. I literally just walked up to my office. My wife kind of handles it the same way. She usually comes to post-game presser, but she doesn't come when she's thinks it's not going to be a great environment. So I went up to the office, gathered my thoughts, took a hot shower, threw on my clothes, went home, and the thing that brings me back is watching my 5-year-old sing "Girls on Fire," for a video. Like, that was like the only thing that brought me solace Saturday night, was to see her smile and laugh and make me laugh, because she really doesn't know what's happening, right? So most of our guys don't have kids to go home to, so they're going to go home and talk to their parents. A lot of them had Dad's Day, right? So a lot of dads were in town. It was really awesome to see that. Everybody just handles it differently. I don't pass judgment on what's right, wrong, or indifferent. I thought that way they handled Sunday afternoon's team meeting was kind of what I expected it to be. I'm really excited to see where they're at tomorrow morning.
After that Indiana loss earlier in the year, you mentioned that the players kind of responded by being like more determined and hungry to see success. After that, do you see any parallels from that loss to now this loss?
Again, as the week goes on, I haven't been around them except for a little bit last night. We didn't take them on the field. I like this group. I like them as much as I do today as I did last Thursday or Friday, right? Like, I think they're a tremendously talented group. I think they, expect to have success, and how they handle the week will tell me a little bit about them. I'm expecting tomorrow morning to be very spirited, it's a little bit unusual. It's an election day, so by theory, they don't have any class or anything that they're assigned to, so we pushed back the morning a little bit. I just thought that, that more rest that they can get this week, the better off we'll be, so I pushed back the start time tomorrow almost 2 hours to allow them to sleep in a little bit. I'm excited to see exactly where they're at, but it's a kind of a wait and see what happens this week.
You want to lean into its last home game and senior day with your guys for motivation?
Yeah, it'll be senior day. It's always an emotional day. I've experienced a gamut as a head coach from my first one a long time ago to where we are now. It's an emotional day for me as a player or as a coach. To know that I'm going to hug players for the last time. It's on this home surface is very emotional. They wanted to make a goal to have Memorial go undefeated this year, and obviously we let that go on Saturday. So the only thing we have in front of us is Purdue, a Big West opponent, a trophy game, a lot of things like that. But you also worry about the effects on the other players, right? Because a lot of those guys are close to those players as well, and it could be the last time they take Memorial together. There's some guys that are going through the senior day that don't know if they'll be back, right? There's guys that for sure will be gone by eligibility standards, but there's a lot of guys that are really good players that I think when the season's done, we'll have an opportunity to, when the regular season is done, kind of in bowl game preparation or postseason play, we'll see exactly where those guys are at with NFL, and they'll make their decisions after that.
What's the process for figuring out how to fix the red zone and the short yardage situation? Is that sitting down with the offensive staff, you and yourself, and just trying to figure it out?
Well, twofold. So anytime we have success or failure, the conversations are always the same. What can we do better? What did we do well? What didn't do well? I think offensively, Barry has definitely went through some changes, not only in schematic, but also on his play sheet, how they call it, conversations with the offensive staff. He and I had another conversation this morning. I think the thing that I'd kind of always stress, right, is we have success in other areas of the field doing certain things that has to correlate down. It's just a condensed field. It sounds like an easy thing, but it allows the defense to do something completely different. And we haven't been able to have any sustainable success in any of the games. So to carry that forward, we got to figure out what we can do well, maximize that, and minimize things we don't do well.
You didn't have much of an update injury-wise. Josh, with that horse collar, was that an injury? Is that something that rattled him because it was kind of similar to the first one? Like, what's his status?
A little bit. The first one was basically a hyperextension of the knee. This one was like he got horse collared. I know they called it laid out of bounds, but he got pulled from behind, which caused it to get rolled up on the backside of the legs. And when he popped up, I know we asked immediately there, and then as the game wore on, just didn't feel as comfortable putting him in that situation. But tomorrow will be a big day for him. I usually have a conversation with him on Monday night, so I'm excited to see where he's at tonight. And then the other guys, Seth and Taz, both those guys are in concussion protocol. So when they clear their appropriate procedures, then they could or could not be cleared.
Is this a more balanced on Purdue offense than you've seen? Because Jeff, when he got in this league, didn't seem to think like running the ball was going to be all that critical, and it seems like this year they've made a real emphasis.
There's at times in this game where the running game is much more prevalent. Their running backs have done a nice job. I think their offensive line is gritty, savvy. I think when you have a quarterback of his caliber, you have to defend the passing game, knowing what they love to do, really from sideline to sideline, and then you throw in that the run game, what they hit downhill. He's done a nice job of creating some yards after contact as well. So a really a different offense, I'd say, than we had a year ago. And then you throw in, obviously Jones. I mean, it's just a different offense.
I know after the game you kind of talked about possibly changing formations and personnel groupings in the red zone. Is that something you guys are considering this week?
We consider it every week. I get the emphasis, look, a year ago or a week ago, we talked about our offense had gone from 124 to number one in completion percentage, right? And that was the topic last week. This week's the topic because of our red zone failure again this past weekend. So I couldn't be happier with what our coaches have done, offense, defense, with Barry and Ryan in particular. I think I got two of the better coordinators I've ever had in my career. For Josh, he's given us the opportunity to keep those guys and move forward together. So I'm really excited to see what Barry and the staff come up with. Today's a big day because today is all game planning and Tuesday is early downs. We don't really get into red area till Wednesday and Thursday, but I have moved up and accelerated offensively. We'll work red area earlier in the week than we ever have and put a more emphasis on it in practice because that's one thing I do know constant. The more you practice, hopefully the better you prepare.
Building off of that, Josh has given you a lot of resources, whether it's Barry or Ryan. How important is it at this stage of your program to have continuity at those positions and just your staff?
Well, last year we only had one position change, right? And obviously it was one I think we made for the better. So anytime you can keep continuity, even during bye week 1 and 2, I've had a lot of conversations with Johnny, Keith, Tariq, C.J. Hart, Devin Witherspoon, Julian Pearl, Isaiah Adams, Chase Brown, 2 or 3 wide receivers about, hey, there are options in front of them, right, that they could possibly move on. And the same thing there, the more continuity we can have offense, defense, I think it gets kids excited about coming back and playing with not only with players but with coaches, If I could just measure the quantitative excitement from our offensive players and coaches every day in our building since Barry's come in, it's just worth its weight in gold, the excitement it's created in recruiting. And Josh was very clear when I took the job, like what he was going to be able to provide from an assistant coach's salary pool. And then last year, the proactive measures he took with Ryan. And again, this year, right, Ryan's a very talented coach, going to have opportunities in front of him. I think Barry's the same thing. Barry's just kind of a year behind. And it's fun to be in that type of world to know that support exists.
What's it mean to you? I know
Huge.
Other places.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, I've been at other places where it's been documented where I didn't feel that way. But it's a different time. It's a different world. I think the neat part about where we're at right now, and I told this to our coaches and players, right? No one wanted to be 7-2 this week, but I think from a lot of people on the outside world looking in, like I didn't come here to win 5 games. I made that very clear before it happened, right? And we want to chase a Big Ten championship, and fortunately, as disappointing as Saturday was, because of what we've done, those things are still in front of us, right? And to have 3 games left in front of us that, mathematically, if you were able to have success against Purdue and, win one of those other 2, your chances of being Purdue are 100%. I don't think you can argue with 3 games left that anybody's going to feel bad about that scenario. So we're not where we need to be. We're a lot closer than we were a year ago at this time, and progress is key, and I love the progress we're on, but disappointed when we have setbacks.
With those implications, do you let your players lean into those implications on Saturday, or do you just try to act like it's the same old game?
Well, I bring it up. So Sunday, again, we handle every Sunday, win or lose, the exact same way. When we come back in the second session of a team meeting, I call it where are we at with college football. I look at not only us, I look at the division, and I look at Big Ten football, and then also nationally, right? When we were able to be nationally ranked, I brought those guys into that thing. So one of the first 3 things I show them on Saturday is the Big Ten standings, national rankings. There's a graphic that Brett and his crew put out that shows us AP coaches pool. I always show that because I think to ignore that, you're just ignoring something they see every day. I'd much rather hear it from my voice and what I feel about it than let them determine what they feel by outside world. So, I think we definitely, this week it's all about Purdue. It's all about an opportunity to play a trophy game. It's all an opportunity to be in the Big Ten West title race, and fortunately for us, we're a 4-2 team in our league. The next 3 teams behind us all have 3 wins. If they win their last 3, they get to 6. If we win 2 of our 3, we win the 6, and if it's against the right opponents, you have 6 wins with a tiebreaker advantage against everybody except for Purdue because we haven't played them. So those are things that are very relevant.
You've considered Jordan Slaughter the 6th starter, basically. Do you see more snaps for him down the stretch of the season?
Bart has that plan every Saturday. I know that some games has been higher than expected, and then Saturday it wasn't as high a number as maybe as expected. But I think those old linemen in general, those 6 guys have a very special relationship with Bart and what we've done offensively. A lot of the success we've had in throwing the football and run the football has been off them. But I also tell you that I think they realize that they can play and perform better than we did this past weekend.
Do you want to continue to run with Hugh Robertson, or do you want to see how practice plays out this week?
Well, no, Hugh's our starting punter, and obviously this Saturday is going to be a colder weather game, but it's projected to have some of the same wind content and availability. So I think me personally, I can do a better job of preparing him for that moment and making it. It's hard to simulate wind that's not there. That's the hard thing to do. So you have to prepare him for that moment and have the answers for when he gets here.
You mentioned no classes tomorrow. I mean, how much have you talked to the team about midterm elections, about voting, that stuff?
Well, that's a delicate thing, right? So as a head coach, you have to make them aware of it. I personally have never spoken a political view in my life to anybody other than maybe an occasional conversation with my wife. But I'm just never wired in that topic. Let everybody kind of handle their own, do what they own. So no, I won't give them anything other than I did say and made them aware of our schedule so that they would have an opportunity to vote accordingly, because they don't have class schedules, so they'll have plenty of time if those want to do it to be able to exercise their right.
You worked under 2 of the best coaches to build programs in history, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So what have they given you that you apply to here?
No. I think I've actually probably worked under 3 with an asterisk to get 4. So the first one was Hayden Fry. Every day in my personal journal, I carry a note that wrote me. It said, Brett, with 2 T's, you're going to be a great head coach when you get the opportunity because you always kick butt. That's why I always spell your name with 2 T's. So he was covering because he really knew that I only had 1 T. But what I learned from Hayden Fry was the amount of respect that we had for him as a coach to our players. I loved him as a coach. I'd do anything for him because I always thought he had my best interest and our players' best interest. He helped me through the loss of my sister. He helped me with a scholarship. He gave me guidance in many different ways. And then took over for Kirk, who really didn't rebuild but we weren't very good. We won 1 game with Kirk, right? And so I saw him replace a legend. I saw him put his own touches on a program that had built Iowa into what you see today. Then I went to Bill Snyder and joined him on really on the back half of his resurrection of Kansas State, and learned that there is no detail that can't be done. Turn over a stone over and then turn them over again, right, to find out something more you can about your opponent or your preparation or way to do things. And then came full circle to go to Coach Alvarez, really to be on the back half of his tenure and then to watch him transition me into his role that he's hand-selected me to take that spot was an unbelievable learning experience. Some very unique things to Wisconsin, very unique culture, very unique atmosphere, very unique recruiting dynamic, and how that applied to at Wisconsin. I often asked, why this, why that, and I remember him specifically saying he knew he was going to be able to recruit big linemen there when he went to the grocery store and the guy stacking groceries was 6'6", 280, right? Like the people you see at the grocery store are usually the people you see in the recruiting department, all right? And that always kind of stuck with me. And then to kind of go to Arkansas, have some great success, but also have failure, that probably guided me more than anything. So I'm excited because we're not perfect. We're a 7-2 team. We're so much further along than we were a year ago. Everybody got gun punched. Every person that came to that stadium expected to have success. Not only my players and my staff, but every fan that came to that stadium. So to get gut punched and to have that failure was extremely disappointing for me. But I felt I know what I need to do, and I know how I can control the moment. For the fan that's leaving who maybe came for the first time, you get disappointed because you didn't see a victory. But I can tell you everything that we saw building up to Saturday still exists, and probably even tenfold, because I think we'll get a team now that's much more excited to have success and learn some things that brought failure.
All good. Anything else?
Great. Thank you.